This is The Rise Leader, the podcast dedicated to empowering today's leaders to create lasting impact. Each episode delivers insights, strategies, and inspiration from top professionals and visionary thinkers, designed for those leading teams on the front lines and from the executive suite. Discover actionable tools and inspiring stories to elevate your leadership journey. Step up, make a difference, and join the Rise Leader community.
Welcome to the Rise Leader podcast, where we are committed to sharing actionable leadership insights to empower our community to level up their leadership. Today's episode is sponsored by Charm Restoration, restoration with a touch of charm. Our episode today is titled Raising the Bar on Construction Quality. Our guest is Michael Quade. As the Arizona Division President of Burgess Incorporated, Michael brings a wealth of experience in leadership, operation, strategic growth within the construction industry. With a deep understanding of the Arizona market, Michael is committed to driving innovation, operational excellence, and fostering a culture of collaboration that drives results. Michael, so great to have you on the podcast today.
It's great to be here, Jeff. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Absolutely. So can you tell the community a little bit more about your career path?
Okay. So not to date myself here, but I started in the framing industry in about 1984. I did that for a long time and was very successful with it. I then moved on to project management. All the stuff that we did in framing and in project management was higher end things, higher end houses, remodeling. So people came to expect a certain level of craftsmanship, a certain level of quality. I then decided that Chicago working outside in the wintertime is no fun. And we relocated down to Dallas. That's where I hired on with Burgess.
Okay.
About 6.5 years ago, there was a need for reopening the Phoenix division.
Okay.
And they put it out internally. I interviewed, ultimately got the job. And that was going on 4 years ago, May 1st. Thank you.
Love that. How has your career path shaped your leadership style?
So when I was a framer, I ran a crew of framers, and it was not as professional as it is right now. I learned the nitty and gritty part of being a leader during that. When I hired on with Burgess back in Dallas, I learned from one of my mentors, Craig Brooks. He taught me a lot. He took a chance on me, and Burgess took a chance on me, and I took a chance on Burgess, and it's worked out pretty well.
That's phenomenal.
Thanks.
So back to how long were you in charge of a framing crew?
I did that for 27 years.
All right. That sounds like there could be a lot of nitty gritty in that.
Yeah, we specialized in homes between $1 million and $10 million.
Fantastic. All right. How does Burgess help builders raise the bar for construction quality?
So the first thing to note is that quality assurance inspections are voluntary.
Right.
Builders choose Burgess to have them, and they pay money out of their pockets to have Burgess come and be a third set of eyes. They recognize the fact that their construction managers sometimes are carrying more houses than they should, or they, anywhere between 10 to 25 to even more houses that they're carrying. And they recognize the fact that a third set of eyes is going to only help their quality. And it's been the case with all of our builders that's what's happened. Scores have gone up on the home surveys. Their warranty issues have gone way down. The amount of money they're spending on warranty issues has gone way down. So people are seeing that to have a third set of eyes and to do this voluntarily is an important thing if you want to separate yourself from the competition.
Right. Yeah. And throughout my career, I've seen examples, whether it be the building inspector who's been involved in the process right along, where that, as you're referring to, another set of eyes can be so helpful. One of the previous podcasts I've done was with a mutual friend and colleague, Darren Waschek. And I think there's a really similar parallel there to what Burgess does on the overall quality standpoint And what I saw, and when I interviewed Darren, that was one of my big reflections, is looking back across my career and seeing how the rating system that goes along with energy efficiency, and I know you guys do some similar things, the inspections that went along with energy efficiency and the building envelope, which I think we're also going to talk about. I saw the level of quality within the industry, speaking directly about HVAC companies, for example, that had to adhere to a different standard. And then one of the things that Darren mentioned was some checklists that he had created in the process to help guide builders and contractors to execute more specifically with relation to energy efficiency, but it's really similar. And so I think there's a close comparison there to what you're talking about overall for quality and what I had a chance to interview Darren about. So let's talk about some of the different inspection offerings, or the different offerings that Burgess has for builders, and how those individual inspection types, if I'm not mistaken, the builder can sort of curate their own journey with Burgess, right? And include as many or all of the inspection.
Absolutely. So our bread and butter across almost all of our divisions, as far as QA goes, is a pre-drywall and a final. Those two kind of work hand in hand. There's things that you can catch at the pre-drywall stage that maybe are not going to be as easy to fix at the final stage.
Right.
We offer way more than just the pre-drywall and the finals. We do pre-pour foundation inspections, water mitigation, building envelope,
right,
pre-weather or pre-wrap waterproofing when the windows are installed and flashed,
right,
and all the quick flash are on all the exterior penetrations. We look at that. Burgess also does a lot of sewer cam inspections here locally and drone roof inspections. We have 3 FAA licensed commercial drone pilots on staff here in Phoenix, with 2 more that are going to be ready to test very soon.
Fantastic. That sounds like you continue to add to the opportunities that you do offer.
We want to be everyone's one-stop third-party inspection shop. Another one we do is WaterSense inspections. That one's gaining more traction as well.
And what is that specifically?
So WaterSense, it's a voluntary program that sometimes you can get rebates from the local utility companies. They want to ensure that houses are, plumbed out and able to put out a certain level of water efficiency, just
Gotcha.
like with energy. We have to look to make sure that, they're using WaterSense certified fixtures, that, the flow rate in toilets, showers, and sinks, faucets are a certain level. We look at things like the irrigation on the outside as well, but in Arizona, that's not a huge thing because
Sure.
it's mostly desert landscape.
Okay. So let's talk about pre-drywall inspection. How does Burgess work? I'm assuming that the builders schedule the inspections with your team and you come out there and you do the evaluation. You probably give them a report. Is that essentially how
Yes,
the process
yes.
works? And then is it up to the builder to complete the things from the list, or does your team need to come back and do a reinspection, or how does that work?
So once they have our list, the builder completes the items that we had called out, and we do most of the time come out and do a reinspection. Sometimes we have it set up where it's a correct and verify if there are only minor issues.
Okay.
But most of our builders like us to come out and close the loop.
There you go.
And complete the inspection that certifies that everything is done.
What are some of the common issues you find on pre-drywall inspections?
So a lot of times we'll see overboring in top plates or through studs that need to be repaired or rectified, either with mending straps or plumbing shoes on walls. Sometimes there's bowed walls, and those are a lot easier to fix at the pre-drywall stage. We look at anything and everything. It's not just a code inspection that we do. We look at fit and finish. We look at structural, plumbing, electrical, HVAC, making sure that the condensate lines are installed properly, that they have the proper fall, and that they terminate outside of the structure properly. Right. We're looking at the roofs, the foundation, anything and everything.
So you're looking at structural. So you were talking about overbores and things of that nature, which is critical to the structure. And then all of the typical MEP stuff that you just referenced. And I would say that, building inspectors are probably looking for some of those similar things, but my hunch is that your team probably goes a little deeper.
Yeah, we go a lot deeper. We say that a municipal inspected or county inspected home is the worst home you can buy because they're only looking at code items.
Mhm.
They're not looking at the fit and finish. They're not looking at manufacturers' installation practices.
Okay.
They're not looking at best practice.
So it would probably seem to me then that that's a continual education process, just even referring to what the manufacturer specifications are. How do you train your team? And then my assumption is, along with training your team, there's also an education component that happens with the builder that's hired you, and maybe even in some cases with contractors if you're seeing repeat type issues. But talk a little bit about the training for your team and others.
So absolutely. We work with local window companies. We work with Tyvek reps. We work with, anybody that we can gain a knowledge of. We were doing, or we are still doing, inspections for a build-to-rent community, and they use Hercuwall.
Okay.
And we went to the Hercuwall plant, toured it, and learned all about how Hercuwall should be installed, the things to look for, the art of the Hercuwall, basically.
Right. Love that. And then the other thing that I wanted to just close off maybe on the pre-drywall is one thing that you mentioned was a boat wall or something out of square.
Mm-hmm.
And you alluded to this in the beginning, where you can get in front of things so they don't end up being fit and finish problems. And unless there was a, structural component that was hanging out of the ceiling or something structural, that's typically not going to get called out by a municipal building inspector.
Correct.
So the fact that your team is doing that level of inspection at frame stage, pre-drywall, I know from my time in the field, that was something really critical to me because that's just how I was built. And that's the type of builder that I worked for that wanted that. My assumption is for every one superintendent out there in the field that does do that level of inspection, there's probably, 10 others that are either, strictly relying on the trades, which can be okay, but not always.
Mm-hmm.
That would seem to be a crucial value add point of the inspections that your team is doing pre-drywall.
That's absolutely correct. Another thing that you maybe didn't mention is that builders are always hiring new construction managers. Sometimes those construction managers are young and need a little bit of training. That's where Burgess comes in. All of our training that we do, and that's not only with the construction managers, that could be with a team of carpenters or with a team of, other trades, the plumbers, the electricians. We can have a sit down and have a toolbox talk with them. But we want to help the construction manager that might be a little green behind the ears with our years of experience and help them understand our process better so they can build a better house. And we've found time and time again, even here in Phoenix, that those young construction managers that we help train, they might go on and move up in the company, or they might go to a different company, accept a higher position. And they say, you know what, Burgess really helped me understand as a young construction manager how to do my job better. We should hire them to, help this company now.
Sure.
We find that all the time.
Love that. Giving back to the industry and raising the bar for all.
Right. And those training services come at no extra price to our customers.
Included. Love. So are there any other benefits that builders could, I know we've talked about a lot of the benefits that builders can expect working with Burgess. Any other elements that we haven't covered?
Absolutely. So the one that people know us for the most is our next day guarantee. If builders schedule or call in the inspection by 3:00 the day prior, we guarantee next day service.
Wow.
Another thing is our analytics portal that is available to all of our clients. And Burgess likes to call itself a data collection company that dabbles in inspections. We have a wealth of information and data to collect and give to these builders so they can look back and say, this community is not performing as well. Maybe that's because they have this certain trade that is not performing as well. We need to shake things up. Or they can see which of their construction managers are really excelling and which ones maybe need a little more training, a little more help.
So using the data to...
Absolutely.
Love that. So one of our mutual colleagues, Charles, and you're doing work with this builder specifically. I wanted to chat with him because he's really the one that recommended our conversation. Now, we knew each other, but didn't get a chance to work together directly before I left home building. He actually called the relationship that they have with Burgess a game changer. I would say, well, I guess what I would say is doesn't give compliments easy.
Okay.
That's the best way that I could say it. And he called it a game changer. And he actually shared with me, and I'd love to hear you tell the community a little bit about, I'd hate to call it like an incentive program because it's not money, but it is an incentive where you use, and you'll tell me about the bats and the terminology and how your team really, I guess what I would say rather than incentive is maybe gamify the performance of individual teams. And he was so high on this part. I'd love to hear you just unpack that a little bit.
So yes, Burgess does have several different awards programs. We like to recognize excellence. There's some construction managers who have been there longer, are more experienced, but the ones who really work hard and try to separate themselves from the field, we want to recognize that. So the way we do that is if you get a 0 defect pre-drywall and a 0 defect final on the same address, it's difficult, but it is possible. Then we award you with an authentic Marucci Major League Baseball bat with their name, the month that it occurred in, and we have certain level bats. If a builder's really performing above and beyond, and he gets multiple homes that qualify for that, there's different levels of bats that we have. We found that builders as a group are a very competitive bunch.
Yes.
Maybe they see their colleague wins a bat and we make a big deal out of it. We want to go to their construction meeting. We want to do it in front of everyone. We put on a PowerPoint presentation to explain what we're looking at, to show the results. And we award the bats. And one person may say, how did Timmy get a bat and I didn't get a bat? What do I have to do to get a bat? And it engages them into working with Burgess, kind of buying into our process. And that's how they become successful.
I love that. Anytime that you can add, and I think that's what Charles called it, healthy competition within the team, but it also, in his words, really amped up the camaraderie amongst the team. So healthy competition and camaraderie. He was so proud to go back. He had the picture of the board that tracks all the recipients on it. And he sent me a picture of that. And he was really high on that. And I love any time that you can bring that type of positive energy to a group, essentially bringing synergy to what those outcome goals are, the better that is.
Well, we also have another program called the Game Changer Bat. When we first start out working with our clients, it is difficult for them to earn that first home run bat. We have another program called the Game Changer, and we look at the metrics I spoke about before, the analytics I spoke about before, and there's 9 different points that we measure and put into the computer, and the computer spits out a name that says that this person was the best performer overall. So we award that on a quarterly basis, and that's the plaque that Charles had sent you the picture of, and there's nameplates. It'll tell you who won it that quarter, and then that builder gets his own Game Changer bat with his name on it saying he won it, first quarter of 2025.
I love that.
Yeah,
I love all that. Great. The other thing that Charles alluded to was the fact that Burgess is builder friendly. And so what I took away from that, and I'd love to have you expound on this a little bit for the community, is a lot of times, even go back to that conversation where we referred to Darren and energy, because those systems are, typically, oversaw by the government or whatever agency,
Mhm.
home building inspections are generally pretty, like they just tell you the way it's going to be, and that's the way that you're going to do it. But he referred to Burgess as very builder friendly. I don't know if you would agree, or maybe help unpack this a little bit more, where a builder can really, I would call it, curate the type of experience they're going to have with Burgess. Is that the factor?
That is 100% the case. Every builder is different, so their inspection checklists are also different too. We know that certain builders want us to concentrate very hard on certain aspects. For each one of the builders we have a walkbook, and the walkbook is basically all the directives they've ever given us. It includes all the inspection checklists that we have for them, the not ready criteria, all the different documents that have been, sent back and forth. And my consultants look at that before they go out every day. And if they know they're going to a certain builder, they'll look up that builder's walkbook and say, okay, I know that they don't want us to call this because they consider it just a cosmetic issue, but they do want us to be looking really, really closely at damaged trusses. Maybe they have a guy who was not very well skilled, or it was a windy day and some trusses got damaged. Those are the things they need us to catch, things that can be a really important issue on down the road.
Charles was also standing there with James, and they both talked about the impact that Burgess has had on them as a home builder. It's showing up in their customer satisfaction statistics. So I think with the caliber of builder that they are, this is really validating to your.
Absolutely. We always encourage our construction managers to walk with our consultants. Communication is key. We'll let them know first thing in the morning, we've got a house in this community at this address for you, a pre-drywall final, whatever the case is. And we let them know when we're on our way. And if they're not there, we might text and say, hey, I'm starting this inspection just in case you want to walk with me. We found that the construction managers that do walk with us are the ones that are most successful, not only in our program, but in their companies. And those are the guys who are moving on to become area managers or warranty managers or higher up, even in the leadership spectrum.
Love that. So next question is directly back to your career path. Who has been the most impactful leader in your life or career? And
I think I alluded to him earlier. That was the guy who hired me for Burgess back in Dallas, Craig Brooks. He wears many hats for Burgess. He runs the Dallas division, our biggest and most profitable division, but he is also the single family services director across all of our divisions. He works with all the different divisions when it comes to QA.
Okay.
And when I knew that I was going to be able to have the opportunity to work with Craig again, I jumped at it. Craig he's got a certain way about him. He's got just such a magnetic personality that people are drawn to him. And he's got this like kind of slow Southern drawl, and he never forgets a name. That was one thing that really impressed me about him, is he never forgets somebody's name. It could have been 17, 18 years ago, and he met you for 5 minutes down in, Florida somewhere at a conference, and he remembered that person. So yeah, he's been a great mentor, he trained me on, everything, pretty much everything I know about Burgess, or his people who he trained me on everything. And I really credit a lot of my success at Burgess to not only his training, but his ongoing mentorship of me.
Love that. Love it. Both impact in the beginning, and it sounds like sustain. So very cool. What is the best actionable leadership lesson that you've learned in your life or career that you could share with the community?
So a few different things. I like to be as transparent as possible. If I make mistakes, I'm going to own up to it and try to learn from my mistakes. I consider that to be a strength.
Right.
I also learned that leadership and management are two very different things. Leadership is about people, management is about things. Leadership is an art, management is a science. People can sometimes be unstable, things are very stable. Leadership is about people, and management is about skills and knowledge.
Right.
So you have to learn how to differentiate between the two. I'm always learning new things. Another thing that I learned is that leadership is not a sprint, it's a marathon. I'm still learning to become a great leader.
It's a journey. Oh, Michael, I've enjoyed the conversation today. I'll share the Burgess website with the team and then give you a chance if there's anything that I haven't asked about that you think would be helpful for the community. But we've got Burgess-Inc.com to get to the Burgess website.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else that you think would be helpful to share with the community?
Burgess is growing not only across all of our divisions, but especially here in Phoenix. We have found a niche here that people seem to gravitate to. I owe that all to my team, my sales team, my consultants, my leadership team, operations. All my success is due to them. So
lovely. I recall seeing on your website when I was doing my prep work that Burgess had been awarded best places to work.
That was back in Dallas, but yeah, that was one of our achievements back in Dallas. It did mention that Dallas is our, most profitable division, but it's been there for a long time. And Craig Brooks runs that. He's been there in Dallas with Burgess, I want to say about 18 years now. So
my personal experiences as a home builder and being awarded best places to work was one of the highlights of my career. When you do the best places to work, they thoroughly interview, everybody on the team to make sure that the culture and the leadership and the business processes are in line to truly validate that. I understand what it takes to go through and be awarded in that process, and knowing that I think is also a big feather in the cap of Burgess. So I mentioned Burgess-Incorporated.com, Inc.com to get to the website. Like to thank our sponsor again, Charm Restoration with a touch of charm. Michael, I'd like to thank you again for coming on the podcast, talking about your leadership experience, talking about the opportunities that Burgess represents for builders here in the Phoenix market specifically, but also in Dallas and others. So thank you so much for coming down and chatting with me today.
Well, thank you. I thoroughly enjoyed the experience. It was great.
Absolutely. So thank you to the Rise Leadership community. Don't forget to subscribe, like, share, and please, if you're willing, leave us a review. Thank you so much.
That's it for this episode of The Rise Leader. Thanks for joining us today. To connect further, visit riseleadershipaz.com, where you can find show notes, resources, and more episodes. You can also find The Rise Leader on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review the show. Your feedback helps us reach more leaders and continue to deliver valuable content. Until next time, remember to step up, make a difference, and lead with impact. This is The Rise Leader, signing off.